Hi, Steve. I've got a question. It's on Genesis 15. This is where God says to Abram that his seeds will be his heirs, children, whatever, like the stars of the sea. And then Abraham, or Abram at that point, says, how will I know this? And then he says, how shall I know that I'll inherit it? And he says, take the heifer, the she-goat, the ram, the turtle dove, the pigeon. And he took them and divided them. And then it says, when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, a horror of great darkness. And then we have the verse, I think what it is, 17, and it came to pass that when the sun was down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace, a burning lamp passed between the pieces. What do you make of that? Now, I see it, and what I see it as basically when God was saying to Abram, he'll enter the promised land. To me, that's salvation. And what I see here is God basically didn't let Abraham walk between them pieces. He alone went through them. So what do you make of it?
Well, that's what my pastors told me, too. And as I studied the Bible more, I came to a different opinion. Of course, you know, but a lot of our listeners don't, perhaps, that passing through the pieces of these animals' bodies was a ritual of the Middle Eastern covenant. And what they would do is they'd take animals, a bull or some other kind of animals. They'd cut it in two pieces. They'd put the pieces on either side of a passageway, and they'd walk between them. And generally, both parties that were involved in the covenant would go between them. Now, there's something they said along with this, and we have some inscriptions from ancient Babylonia that talk about what they did say. They said, if I break this covenant, may I be torn in two pieces like this animal that we're walking between them. And so, I mean, it was like wishing a curse upon yourself if you did not fulfill it. But the idea was, of course, you will fulfill it. You're promising to do it, and it's a firm covenant. Now, in this case, there were not two people walking between them. There was a smoking oven and a burning torch. Now, they're passing through the parts of the animals. Now, the smoking oven and the burning torch symbolize something. Now, I was always told that the burning oven symbolized God the Father, and the burning torch represented Jesus. And so God the Father and Jesus were covenanting between themselves to fulfill these promises to Abraham. And the fact that Abraham didn't have to go through there, usually it was interpreted to mean this was unconditional. He didn't have to do anything. This is God agreeing within himself, within the Godhead about this, and therefore it's guaranteed, regardless what Abraham would do, he's not involved, even in passing between the parts. That's how it's usually taught. Now, as I studied further on, first of all, I always wondered why they thought that. Because to refer to God as a smoking oven, I mean, there's no place in the Bible that God is compared with an oven, although it does say in Hebrews our God is a consuming fire, but a fire is not specifically an oven. And to refer to Jesus as a burning torch in the Old Testament would certainly not be something that would be intuitive, that Abraham or anyone else would see, oh, this is God the Father and this is God the Son. What he saw was an oven and a torch. So what does an oven and a torch represent? Well, as you said, God had just made promises to Abraham about the Egyptian captivity. He had said, your children are going to be in a land that is not their own for 400 years, and then I'll bring them back. I'll restore them from their captivity, and I'm going to give them this land. And Abraham said, well, how do I know that? And so God made this covenant. And the oven, in my opinion, represents the Egyptian captivity. And the torch, in my opinion, represents God saving them from it. Now, I'll tell you why. There are three times in the Old Testament where the captivity in Egypt is referred to as an oven. Moses referred to it that way in Deuteronomy 4:20, and Jeremiah referred to it that way in Jeremiah 11:4. And in 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 51, you find it again, that the captivity in Egypt was called the iron oven or furnace. And that they were delivered from. Now, a smoking torch or a smoking lamp, see, the King James renders this differently than some translations do, but if you look at Isaiah chapter 62 and verse 1, it says, "For Zion's sake I will not hold my peace, and for Jerusalem's sake I will not rest until her righteousness goes forth as brightness, and her salvation as a burning lamp," or burning. The King James uses burning lamp as the image in Genesis, the passage we're looking at. But her salvation is like a burning lamp. The captivity is like an iron furnace or an iron oven. And so God is promising Abraham that his children and offspring will be in Egypt in captivity, a captivity that's later several times referred to as a burning oven or an iron oven, iron furnace, and that he'll deliver them. And salvation is like a burning lamp or a burning torch. And so I think these represent the two elements of God's promise, that they are joined inseparably. If God's going to send them into captivity, that will not happen without the other thing, the salvation and the rescue as well. Now, no one has to agree with my interpretation, and most people, I think, don't. And in fact, when I came up with this interpretation, it was on my own from reading the Old Testament as much as I did. But I did find there was someone else. I don't remember if it was Adam Clark's commentary. Later on, I found out somebody else, to my surprise, took it the same way I did. I'm not sure who it was now. It's been a long time. But so I'm not seeing this necessarily as the oven represents God the Father and the torch represents Christ, partly because I don't know of anything else in Scripture that would point us that direction. It seems very arbitrary to suggest it.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So the oven, he's saying, I promise you they're going for 400 years. That's that smoking furnace. And then the burning lamp is their deliverance out of there, basically. Their salvation.
Right, I'll bring them back to this land. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's interesting. All right.
It's a different view.
Thanks for